Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey and Literature. I'm your host, Captain Mike. I do whiskey and book reviews, and today it is Little Book, Edition 1, The Infinite. When I went to Kentucky in September, the number one bottle on my hit list was this bottle. I didn't even know anything about it. I've just really been hyped about the Little Book series after the past few releases. So when I saw it on the shelf, I just swiped my card and took the bottle. I know I'm saying this kind of every video that I do these days, but for those of you who haven't seen any of my videos recently, my house was essentially wiped out in Hurricane Helene. My four walls are standing, the slab is here, but my house is empty. I have block walls, studs, and a concrete floor. So it is what it is. I did finally get my bottles up on these industrial kind of shelves behind me, and I only did that because there is another hurricane in the Gulf right now. And so I had at least 3/4 of my bottles were sitting in plastic totes on the floor here in this empty house. So I raised them up a little bit just by putting them on the shelves, and hopefully if we do get any water in here with Raphael, it'll only be maybe a foot or two, and it'll stay away from my bottles. And it's been crazy. And I really feel for everyone, if you're watching this video and you've been impacted by the recent hurricanes, whether you're up in Asheville in North Carolina or up and down the Gulf Coast here in Florida, I'm sorry, and I hope you're getting the help that you need and everything goes well for you and your family and your loved ones. But having said that, let's get back to the whiskey now. Little Book, Edition 1. First of all, what is in the bottle? This is a blend of 4 bourbons. We have a 20-year-old bourbon distilled by Booker No, a 14-year-old bourbon distilled by Fred No, and a 7-year-old distilled by Freddie No. And there's an 8-year-old bourbon, which they say is shared family components, whatever the heck that means. All right, so they made the blend, and 70% of that blend they put in the bottles. 30% of the blend they put into tanks. The tanks basically hold the bourbon in stasis, and that will be used as a component in further editions of the Little Book series. And by having put them in tanks instead of leaving them in barrels, the whiskey is not going to age or change. So the whiskey that's in this bottle now, it'll be that exact same age and blend and flavor profile that will be a component of following editions. So it sounds like to me, in the future, we're going to have 2 branches of Little Book. We're going to have the chapters that we're all familiar with, and then we're going to have the editions. And I see people all over the internet messing up the name of this bottle. We have Little Book chapters, and then they're chapter 1, 2, 3, up through 8 right now. And they all have names like Path Not Taken, In Retrospect, things like this. This is the first of the Little Book editions. So it's edition 1, and the title of this bottle specifically is The Infinite. It's not Little Book, The Infinite, edition 1. If you're familiar with what an infinity bottle is, I think that's what Freddie No's idea is for this series. In an infinity bottle, you take little bits of different bottles of whiskey that you have, usually the last bits, and you pour them in a bottle, a decanter or an old bottle that you have, and it just becomes your own personal one-of-a-kind blend that's ever evolving as you drink some and pour some in there. It's ever changing, and I think that is the idea for the edition series of Little Book. I do think it would be interesting to talk to Freddie No, and I've talked to him several times, so if you ever see him, he is very approachable. If you're there I've seen him at Jim Beam, and I've seen him here in Tampa, and he's happy to answer any questions that you have. At least he has been for me, and I think it would be interesting to know if he has an idea right now how many editions are planned for this series. Does he even have an idea? Are they just going to be using less and less of this edition 1 component in future releases? I don't know, but I think that would be an interesting thing to know. So if you have any insider knowledge or if you talk to Freddie about this, let us know. And to me, it also explains why this blend is all bourbon and there's no rye in here, because it's pretty easy for a rye to run over a bourbon and to kind of take it over. So whether we ever see a rye in this blend, I don't know, but I would expect we keep it to the bourbon wheelhouse, perhaps. Okay, real quick, the specs and stats of this bottle, and then let's get to it. This is, of course, 4 bourbons that are blended, aged 7 to 20 years. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. It's bottled at 119.3 proof. The MSRP, and I paid at the Jim Beam store, $200. And I don't know if you can tell, but my air conditioner is not working in this house. It did work a couple days after the storm, but I think the air handler or the compressor outside, it was covered in salt water. Up there, maybe there were 6 inches of the compressor that wasn't in salt water, and it did turn on a couple days after the storm. It moved and stuff, but I think it's all seized up now, so I can't turn my air conditioner on, and it is hot. I don't know if you can tell. It's hot as balls in this house. But let's get to the whiskey here and then get through it, and I can call this a day and get back to the hotel in the air conditioning. Little Book, Edition 1, The Infinite. Cheers. I really have been a fan of Freddie No and the Little Book series. Super, super hyped about this bottle. I really didn't even question the $200 price tag, though when I saw that I was like, but honestly, it just, I didn't hesitate at all to pull the trigger. Like I walked into the Jim Beam store, I just grabbed that bottle. And I realized that I might have totally effed up. So if you've had the Booker's Reserve, let me know what you think about it. Because when I got to Jim Beam for this bottle, when I landed in Kentucky, the first thing I do is I drive to Jim Beam because I like to eat there because I'm usually hungry and then see what they have at the store. And they had everything at the store. They had Edition 1, they have Booker's Reserve, Booker's 2024-2 and -3, the new Baker's 13, the Baker's 7 Rye. They had the new Harder's Creek, Distiller Share number 6, Knob Creek 18. Dude, they had it all at the store. I passed that first day on the Booker's Reserve, and when on the third day I went back to purchase it, and they were out. I did settle, if you will say that, for a Booker's Reserve 2024-3, but man, I've been hearing great things about the Booker's Reserve, and I am super duper sorry that I had passed on that bottle. Anyway, I have had a few pours of this whiskey. Let's talk about it. As usual, I really like the nose. It's sweet off the bat. It's really nice. Is creamy. Is there a can you smell creamy? It's buttery fruitiness. Red fruits in there. It is sweet, but there's an underlying thread of like cinnamon. And to me, when I smell that cinnamon note, it is kind of a red hottish-y note to me. It's really thin and underlying everything. It's not in the forefront, but it's just a nice counterpoint to the sweetness of this Little Book Edition 1. I think there's a lot there. I think sometimes you nose a whiskey and it's just like, there it is. And whether you like it or not, it just lays it all out there bare. I feel like there's more to this, and it's very complex. You could keep coming to it. I would be interested to add a little water in here and then nose it and see how maybe that opens it up or over time. And it has been sitting in the glass here for at least 20 minutes, but it's a real nice nose. It's inviting. Definitely, it's a Beam product. It's very familiar, but it has some twist and some other discoveries waiting for you in the nose. Let's go in again. I find the first sip of this to be very intense. It'll wake you up, which is why I had that sip earlier to kind of just perk things up and make it ready for when I actually had a more full sip. Sometimes if that first sip is more full, it can be overwhelming. But It's it's very intense, that first sip. And it's nice, 119.3 proof. That's a pretty good proof. It's nice and strong. You can tell it's uncut, it's unfiltered. It's kind of it's a weighty mouthfeel. It's authoritative. It's really, you know it's there, and it's really great. If you've had Booker's, this will be very familiar to you. It's that same nutty beaminess just coming at you. It's familiar to those Booker's fans, and I have Booker's, and I'm a fan of Booker's. If I had to pick between Little Book and Booker's, typically I'm going to go towards the Little Book. I just like the innovativeness that comes with these, or I have been, over the Booker's. I just feel like it's less exciting, the Booker's. But it's very familiar. It's an aged mouthfeel. You can tell, again, that authority, that age coming at you. Sweet. Brown sugar. Caramel. It's almost like a smoky caramel. I like it. It's very good. And it just marinates on my mouth really nicely. It's finishing well. It's finishing strong. It's just kind of those fading, nice bourbon notes. Leave me with that little nuttiness and, again, that brown sugar. Okay, so my thoughts on this pour. I haven't watched any reviews on this. I've read a couple of reviews, and honestly, they're kind of mixed. And I feel bad for those who are underwhelmed by this whiskey and who paid MSRP for it, because that's a stiff price to pay for a whiskey that you aren't really enjoying overall. I do suspect that some of those negative reviews are due to the price. I think overall what's really been attracting me to the Little Book series is the chances that Freddie No has taken. Again, the innovativeness and the awesomeness of what he's done. I mean, Chapter 8, anyone? This, on the other hand, I think it's more playing it safe. And it's more like what I would expect from a really good Booker's than what I expect from the Little Book series. Or let's take that back. So now we're branching off, right? We have the Little Book chapter series, and we have the first of the edition series. But I'm going to say this. I mean, for this bottle, specifically this bottle in itself, separate and apart from everything else, it is not a $200 bottle of whiskey. I think it is a good bottle of whiskey, like a really excellent, if you will, Booker's, and I'll say that again. But taking into account what this bottle represents, it's edition 1 of a new series from Freddie No and the Little Book. So for that concept, what the edition series could become, I do think this is a $200 bottle. And honestly, I'm glad that we're separating these two, because I think that we're going to see 2 Little Book series now per year. We're going to see the chapter series with all that awesomeness, and then we're going to see this edition series and whatever that form is going to take. And I hope from this first step, which I think is a really good step, then we're going to see this whole new product, and it's exciting to see what comes next. Maybe down the road, if the $200 is actually going to be the price tag for this series, maybe it will start justifying, in my mind, that price. And my question for you is, like, going forward, how much are you willing to spend on Jim Beam allocated products? If allocated is the right word. I mean, are you going to keep up with the Booker's and the Little Book series now? So, I mean, if you purchase 4 Booker's per year, you're talking $400 a minimum, more like $460. If you buy 1 Little Book chapter series, that's about $150 minimum. And if this is $200 price tag, if that's going to be the price going forward, that's another $200 for the Little Book edition series. So that's going to be at least $750 minimum to keep up with Fred and Freddie No. Is that worth it to you? And only you can decide that. I know that I really enjoyed this bottle. I don't know that it's a $200 bottle, but I'm excited about what's coming next. All right, my guys, I am dying of heat here. I'm gonna finish this glass here and close up this house and go back to the hotel and crank that AC down as much as I can. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, like it. Subscribe to see more of my content. I do both book and whiskey reviews. But for now, my friends, you know what to do. I hope you're reading something good, drinking something great, and wear that damn hat. Cheers.